Hi, I'm Will.
I'm Norm.
Norm, this is a PlayStation Vita.
Oh yeah, you've been playing it for the past couple weeks now. You played all the games you wanted to play.
Yeah.
There's only one thing left to do with it.
There's spudgers and screwdrivers and all that stuff right out here in front of us.
Take it apart.
It's taking apart time.
Take it apart.
It's turned off, as you can see, no power. So I'm gonna, first thing I'm gonna do is take my screwdriver. This is part of a massive adjustable screwdriver kit.
Oh, yes.
And I'm going to remove the 8 visible screws.
Okay.
There are 4 in the back. While I get started with that,
I'm gonna explain the construction of the PS Vita. So it's a game console with a 5-inch OLED screen. I'm interested to see how that looks on the inside. I think the battery is actually not gonna be that big. There are actually a lot of components in here because this is the 3G version.
this is the 3G
So
version.
unlike the iPad that we took apart earlier, this will have a radio
You mean
inside.
Adam's iPad?
Oh yes, well.
This isn't Adam's Vita. So.
No, it's your Vita.
No.
Makes us perfectly okay with taking it apart.
Yeah.
And the screws you're actually removing right now are just your standard Phillips head screws. They're double zeros, which mean they're pretty tiny.
Well, the double zero refers to the head, not the thread. So it's
Small
the double
head.
zero bit.
Small head, small thread.
So Norm, a lot of times people say, "Hey, why are you taking this apart? It's a complete waste of time. You're dumb." Duh, duh, duh.
It's something beautiful. Well, we want to admire not only the exterior construction, but also the interior construction to see if this is user serviceable.
Well, and sometimes you learn things that let you repair things in the future. So a few weeks ago, I dropped my Harmony remote, and luckily the screen shattered.
Luckily.
Well, that was the unlucky part.
Oh, okay.
The lucky part of the story is that I had an old one that I had gotten a warranty repair on months and months ago, years ago even, and I was able to pop the screen out of the broken one and put the screen in the other broken in a different way one.
So they're both the exact same model.
It's the same exact model,
Okay.
but because I knew how to open it up without damaging it, I was able to bust out the spudgers and screwdrivers and swap out the screens, and it took maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't watch our previous Taking Apart, you're using tools, you have a standard screwdriver kit, which is many different heads.
Yeah, so that kit is actually an iFixit kit. I think it's about $35, maybe $50, I can't remember.
And I think this is the version without the Pentalobe head, which you'll need for Apple devices.
For newer Apple
Yes.
devices, yeah. You can get a set. I think the new kit actually includes Pentalobe. This one's 2 years old now, so.
And on the right side of the table, we have spudgers, and what those are basically really thin
So these
metal
guys,
tools to
these
pry
are
things
spudgers.
apart.
There's 3 different
And
kinds.
this plastic one,
Nylon, actually.
nylon.
And then there's some, those blue plastic things are spreaders. And basically what all this stuff is for is to help you get into the tight...
A maker's chopstick.
Don't mix up my screw ordering there, Chan.
Okay.
They're to help you wedge something that won't damage plastic or glass, or metal for that matter, in between thin, narrow spaces on these kinds of devices that don't want to come apart. They're naturally fairly tight.
You didn't have to sanitize these before or after the iPad taken apart,
it's
right?
not alive.
Okay.
Everything's cool. So I'm going to get in here with my fingernail.
Or you could use a spudger.
I could use a spudger, but I'm going to start with my fingernail.
And see and pry.
And see how this goes.
Pray and pry.
Now, you're the keeper of the instructions on this, Norm.
Yes, I am on iFix's website right now. They do take apart of basically every popular electronics device. We buy our tools from them, and they usually provide really good guides and photos for taking apart electronics. But we want to do it on our own because photos just don't do the experience justice. Oh, okay.
It looks like an SD card, but it's more proprietary.
Yeah, it's the size of like a SIM card, a full-size SIM.
I'm going to pop the SIM card out, too, while I'm thinking about it.
8 gig Vita memory card. Comes with 3G model. And this is your standard AT&T full-size SIM.
Yep, and I think it's a 3G SIM card, although it's not labeled. So now I'm taking one of my plastic spreaders. It's this guy right here. Let me see if there's one with a little sturdier edge. And one of the things to note is that these guys, the plastic edge tools especially, aren't particularly sturdy, so they're not going to last forever. I'm going to start on this bottom edge and work around here, because this looks like the best place to start, probably. Oh, and there we go. It just started cracking when I lifted and squeezed. Oh, wow.
Perfect. Ooh.
Okay, so...
It's like cracking open rib cage.
Yeah, exactly like that. It looks like there's cables at the bottom, so I'm not going to pry that all the way apart yet. What I am going to do is work around the edges.
That's something to be really careful about, because just because you can open the back or the front doesn't mean you can just tear it apart immediately. Ribbon cables may still be connected, and you might have to go in and disconnect them.
Well, so this one you can see popped off.
Right there.
Yeah, there's a connector. It looks like, hold on, your finger's in the way. It looks like it's right up under here, right there, yeah. So that's the cable, but this is where it connects down here.
And that's
we'll have to put that
disconnected.
back on when we put it back together. I'm going to keep working around the edges here.
Sometimes these screws are really hidden. Oh, and there it goes.
There we go. Okay, so for reference,
yes,
the cables that connect the back, which includes the battery and the back touchscreen, seem to all be on the bottom. This guy right here looks like it's the only one.
for the touchscreen.
This thing is a power cable. It runs directly into the battery. And it looks like the kind that you just lift up. I'm going to get a pointy metal spudger and just get right up under here.
Be gentle.
What could possibly go wrong? Oh, yeah.
Pops right off.
So I got right underneath and just lifted, just real gentle motion. You don't want to dig into any wires or anything like that, or else you'll potentially hurt yourself pretty badly. Okay, so if this is the back of the device, this is the touch back.
Yep.
These guys right here are speakers, and they connect on the board right here. There's pressure contacts right here and here.
Yeah, no cables.
And then there's a little bit of what feels like foam that pushes these speakers up against the board, and then there's a sound channel that pipes through to the front of the Vita right here and here where the sound comes out. So that's kind of interesting design. I've not seen that before.
And you can see the 3 holes are where the sound comes out.
Yeah, maybe, or they could be flat speakers. It's difficult to say. There's a whole bunch of different ways that they can do that.
And that, of course, is the battery.
Yeah, they don't label it. It seems like it's Sony proprietary. I'm not going to bother taking it out because I don't think there's anything to do with it. But it looks, actually I will take it out because why not?
Yeah, it's a bigger battery than you'd find in a smartphone,
Well,
but
it's
not
thicker.
yeah, and more capacity than even like the Galaxy Nexus. But it's going to need that.
So this, the screws that are holding the battery in, you'll note, are a little bit blue tinted. And I think on the Vita, what that means, blue ones hold things to chassis and pink screws hold things to
The board.
the board, yeah. Oops. I don't know where that piece of plastic came from.
It's probably what holds
Oh,
the
it was
battery.
holding the battery in. Yeah, that's exactly it. So there's a little plastic guy here. He slots in right here. So, I mean, if you do have to change the battery in this, which I think was probably the most common reason you'd probably open up a Vita, it seems like it's relatively straightforward. There's only a couple of cables that you'll have to disconnect, this thing, and then we have to figure out how to release the cable for the
power
battery
cable.
itself
Yeah.
from the chute. I'm going to do that right now.
Kind of just threads through the plastic.
Yeah, let's get a little pointy spudger here. So I'm using a thin metal spudger here and just kind of pushing up and lifting. And I think that what's happening is that the clips, there we go. So yeah, this is interesting. The clips that hold this guy in are fairly thick. You can see them right here on the edges of this guy, right here. And they just fit into these little grooves down on the side, just barely in. So you just have to give enough pressure, and it needs to be from the outside. So from this side and this side, not from the
Pushing
inside. I
in.
thought that they were actually facing the other way. So there you go. And the orientation on that when it goes back, the easy way to tell is that these holes here and here line up with the posts here and here inside the box.
And it should be fairly easy
And then-
to pop back in since...
Yeah, I'm going to
clips
do
go
that
over.
right now. There's no reason not to.
Yep. There it goes. Your standard
So
battery.
the battery comes out. There's labels on the back. I'm sure you'll be able to buy those online really, really shortly, if not already.
Yep, lithium-ion battery, 3.7 volts, 20 to 10 milliamp hours. There we go.
So then to put it back in, if you're replacing the battery, you literally just thread the wire through there. Put that guy down. I'm going to screw it in first because that seems like a better idea than the way we did it before. And this little bracket goes this way. It only goes in one way, so that's relatively easy to see. And there is a notch on one end. So if you see, you slide the notch in down here, and then you're going to want to push down, grab your 2 blue screws.
Yep.
And then snap this guy back into place. Make sure that the wire stays in the channel, and you want to make sure that the orientation is right. It looks like the red wire is supposed to go on the left side, or the right side if you're looking at the PSP up. So right this way, red goes this way, white goes that way. Again, being careful to get the wire back in there. Okay, so that's that. Battery's back in, pretty straightforward. Whew. Now, if you want to do more damage to your Vita, which is what we're going to do next, then you need to start by probably taking off this guy right here, which is going to be the cellular modem. There's a lot of weird stuff going on here that I've never seen before. It looks like it has a really super duper custom bracket thing on top of it. And I guess that has to come off, right?
Yeah. Let's use your spudger and pop that off. There it goes, comes off.
So what I'm doing is just getting up under the edge and kind of doing a gentle twist. I'm going to do the same thing on these cellular antenna wires. Oops. And then there's one more over here, it looks like. And these are all different length wires, so that I assume it works with different size antennas. I'm going to have to take all of these off, it looks like. Norm, you seem really nervous. Are you sweating?
I'm not sweating. I'm nervous for you.
Well, this is your PSP now.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope you can put it back together. So these are actually antenna cables.
Yeah, all of these little connectors. Anytime you see a little connector like this, it has a center pole and a round. Wow, that was pretty not good.
It's just the camera. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's a bad camera. Anytime you see these connectors that have kind of a weird snap-on bottom, it's almost always some sort of radio antenna. So that is something that you can file away. So the orientation for this, because this is important to note, is this way, just like this. And then it looks like the modem goes in to just a slot here. And I think I have to unscrew it probably. It looks like there's 2 screws on either end. I'm going to do that right now. And these will be easy to remember because they're great big fat screws.
Using a magnetic screwdriver, that's not going to affect the operation of the Vita, right?
No, it shouldn't. Even inside something that has magnetically sensitive stuff like a PC where you have a hard drive with moving bits, you can use magnetic screwdrivers, assuming you're not using something crazy powerful in there without any problems at all. And then this is going to work just like a video card or a PCI Express slot or something like that.
Slot it in right here.
It just slides in and out. You just want to maintain. You want to keep it parallel to the board, and then we'll screw it in place. It's funny, it kind of wants to stand up. So I'm gonna leave that down there. It looks like it's time to start unscrewing boards. I'm seeing a lot of really delicate, tiny, flat ribbon cables. These are always things to be afraid of because they're really easy to break. You wanna make sure you don't bend them or anything like that. So like this guy, this guy, this guy right here, all of those are, and even this one to a lesser extent, are all places for potential failure and heartache. So when you're unscrewing stuff, be real careful of them. I'm going to go ahead and take this antenna wire off.
Yeah.
My guess is that's probably the Wi-Fi antenna as long as it is, but I could be wrong. And then I'm going to unscrew here. So the way I usually do this is I look and see what's on top. So because you kind of want to go into this from the top down or from whatever you're looking at as the top. So these 4 screws right here, this piece of metal seems to just be a support to keep everything in line and nice and tight in there. Seems like it's relatively safe to take off. So I'm going to start with that.
Yep.
So yeah, this thing is just a support. I'm going to put it right there.
Yeah.
Do the same thing over here. And it looks like these are labeled with R's and L's, so you know which side is supposed to be the right, or at least that's my assumption.
Now these supports are basically clamping down on the different PCB boards, and there are many boards on this PS Vita. It's not like the iPad where it's just one motherboard, long motherboard, with a bunch of chips on it.
Yeah, this is unusual, actually. Yeah. Usually you'll see 1 or 2 daughter boards, especially if you're talking about something that has cellular modems and things like that. The fact that there's so many in this guy is a little bit odd. This is one of those ribbon cables I told you to beware of. I can't tell by looking at it, but I think this is the kind of ribbon cable you just slide out, although it might be the flippy up kind.
So when you mean a flip up one, means the connector just doesn't
go
straight in.
So the way
it
actually
actually has a thing that locks it down.
There's a tiny little mechanism, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this in the shot. But basically you slide the ribbon cable in on this edge, and then this thing right here flips up and down to lock it in place. It's a mechanism that doesn't have very many moves, so you want to minimize the number of times you do that. And then I'm going to do the same thing and disconnect. Actually, I'm going to leave the ribbon cable connected just because it's easier to get back. It'll be easier to get it back together, leaving that ribbon cable on the board. Looking around the edges here, it looks like the only thing that's left that's holding this kind of daughter board on is this big ribbon cable here, and then a couple of screws up here. And it seems a Chloe hair. So let's take these screws off.
I don't see any magic inside.
Were you expecting magic?
You
clearly haven't spent much time with the games. Looks like there's triggers up here holding, there's a ribbon that goes from the trigger where the switch is right up here. down onto this board. I don't know if I can get that off. I think this is another lifty-uppy one, but I'm not 100%. I just can't tell which direction it lifty-uppies from. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this one goes in backwards. And basically all that does is applies just a tiny bit of pressure so that then it holds the cable in place. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here.
Yep, lift up the black part, pull out the ribbon.
Now this is the part where if you're following along at home, you're likely to get into trouble, frankly.
I really hope no one's actually just watching this and following along at home like a cooking show.
Yeah, it's always a good idea to watch the video before you get into this. Because real bad things can happen here. There are a lot of little wires in this thing especially. So my guess is, oh wait, there's a clip over here.
Oh,
there we go.
And there it goes.
So this is one of the sideboards. Now, what you're gonna see on this other side is I guess that's the D-pad, or is that the face buttons? That's the face buttons. This is their D-pad, and this is gonna be the up button. This is gonna be left. Yeah, left. This is right, and that's down. And then all the other stuff that's on this is literally just kind of accoutrement to get things working. And this big dead area is where the analog stick goes on the front. You can see up under here, we can take that out too.
It has its own little...
It has its own little housing.
Yeah, and connection to the motherboard.
Exactly, and that tiniest ribbon cable on the inside was the one for the analog stick housing. I'm not going to probably take off the analog sticks on both sides, but I'll show you this side because we have it open. One of the things you want to do when you take something like this apart is make sure, so yeah, you can show people the analog sticks. No clicky on this one, but it should have 2 potentiometers on the bottom, and then those will send signals back to this board, which then sends them to the main board with one of these big giant ribbon cables. So one of the things when you take something apart and when you're putting it back together, if it's still working, if you want it to keep working, one of the things that's important to do is make sure you test all the different bits and pieces before you put it back together. Thanks, Storm. Now, what I'm taking off now are the pink screws that hold the motherboard in place. It doesn't seem like there's too many of those, maybe just 2 or 3. I do like that they color code those. That makes it really easy.
And the motherboard right now is this dark blue piece of PCB board in the middle that the daughter boards are connected to. That's going to have the CPU, GPU, system on a chip, and the memory, and some other chips, controllers.
Exactly.
So you're removing some of those ribbon cables. These ones actually don't have the clamp.
No, they do. I already opened them.
Okay, I do. On the top. Oh,
ooh, that's completely loose. I didn't realize that. I guess I did because I unscrewed it, but to flip it around a little bit more. Sometimes just a real gentle back and forth motion will help release that stuff.
Yeah, and definitely not the kind of case where you want to do a quick tug.
No,
that will tear the ribbon.
Gentle, slow movements. Then this is the X0 triangle and square buttons.
Basically the same as the other board.
So the way the digital buttons work is these little rubber mats. When you push the actual button, there's a nub in the middle of each of these, and what that does is hits this contact pad on the PCB. So literally, it's just you're pushing something that pushes something, and then that
just like a very typical non-mechanical keyboard. It just has your plastic membrane that depresses.
Yeah. Do you think that sounds insane in the membrane to you, Norm, or not so much?
Terrible. I think it sounds terrible to me.
I'm going to take the doors off. I don't see anything else holding these boards in. Here's the other little connector that was keeping everything glued together on the other side.
What about that camera? Is that all right?
Camera's probably okay. I think it snaps out, judging from my past experience. Yeah, it's just connected with a cable. Oh, there's a screw underneath the camera though. That's very tricky. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm gonna pry that off. So one of the things you were alluding to earlier, and we didn't actually talk about, is then there's a bracket on that one. So I'm gonna just
leave that in the bracket.
I'm gonna leave that in the bracket so I don't forget, and that'll help me remember what my orientation is, as well as what it's actually for, because I don't think the camera will work without that to ground it out. One of the things you were alluding to earlier is a lot of times manufacturers will hide screws under stickers and things like that to make it a little bit more difficult to dismantle a component. It's pretty uncool, I think. So it looks like the motherboard is held in with a series of clamps. This is your opportunity to make a Futurama reference if you want.
Clamps? Well, I know not what you mean.
Really? I'm disappointed in you, Chan. So yeah.
All right.
Okay, hold on. There's something holding.
That was
here.
hard work.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. One more giant ribbon cable.
Yeah, you don't yank that out. Wait, that's for the LCD. Or the, not the LCD, the OLED display.
That is for the OLED display. And it's actually as if it's a different kind of connector. It's not a ribbon that you insert. It's actually just a cable, and you push it into this contact and snap it into place.
I think
so
that's
it's
going to be the
pretty
most
easy to
difficult,
put on.
the one to reconnect, though.
No, those are actually pretty easy. The ribbon cables are going to be real hard. I'm not going to, I guess I can bring it all the way. I've gone this far.
Yep. So you're going to remove the shielding.
I'm going to remove the EM
shields.
shields. So the trick with these guys is just to get just barely up underneath the edge. These are actually much sturdier than the ones that Apple puts on their stuff generally. I don't know if there's a heat spreader underneath this.
So you're going to find under here the CPU.
My hunch is the CPU is
SoC,
probably under that one.
The NAND flash, and the controller chips for like Bluetooth.
These might be soldered. Wait, no.
Yeah. Even if you bent the EM shields a little bit, there's nothing electrical goes through them.
They're just there to protect you from
Yeah.
deadly electromagnetic radiation.
It's very unnerving watching you pry that. It's like watching someone pry fingernails off someone. You're torturing the PS Vita.
Well, everybody says that we have a well-known Vita bias. All ex-whiskey sites have had that accused at one point or another. But I mean, if we didn't like the Vita, would we spend this much time taking it apart as lovingly as we have?
I wouldn't call it lovingly, but with care.
There we go.
There it goes.
I don't know what's underneath that one. You should look and see.
It's a possible multi-channel switching controller.
Ooh, that
says
sounds,
the internet.
It's exciting. Okay, so then this guy's popping off. So
there it goes.
The flat edge one actually worked much better. This is a Sony Computer Entertainment Corporation. This is going to be CPU, and I assume this is probably the RAM since there's no flash built into this device to speak of. I'm not going to bother taking the ones off on the other side because they're just going to be boring display controllers and things like that. But that is how to take apart your PlayStation Vita.
Yeah.
What do you think my chances are getting this thing back together and working?
Pretty good, actually. I mean, not too many screws here. You only have the two daughter boards. The toughest thing, like you said,
look at all these ribbon cables, Chan. They're everywhere.
Ribbon cables. It's not because it's very easy to know where they fit, but actually
getting them in
and then clamping them down properly.
A good pair of tweezers helps with that.
It's one of those things where you don't know if you'll get it right until you flip it on, and then.
Well, you have to check all the inputs. This is important. So you want to make sure you test all of like the weird
all the
back
buttons,
panel, the buttons, the D-pad, all that stuff. Make sure it all lines up right.
I'll just be happy if it flips on and the screen
You're just
lights
looking
up.
for power. It's good to know that you're confident in me. I'm going to put this back together before I forget how it works. Okay, so the Vita is more or less back together. I got to put the last 8 screws in to seal up the case. But before I do that, I'm going to actually power it up and make sure everything works. Nothing works. Oh wait, no, it's turning on. Hey, cool. Before using, read product documentation for important information about your health and safety. Well, we're gonna call this a success. I'm gonna close it back up. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.